Welcome to BlackUSA.News Morning Show. I'm your host, William Honolulu Jr. Join us as we explore the news and opinions that impact our community. We break down how the major stories have a very personal, local, and racial impact. Topic is off limits, but even if the conversation gets rough, we're always going to keep it real. Greetings and salutations, all my people out there in internet land. My name is William Honolulu Jr., and I have the privilege of being the host of the BlackUSA.News Morning Show. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're going to have an amazing show for you today. We're going to discuss the how the supply chain problems, including transportation, workforce, and infrastructure, and finance, are affecting Black businesses in the United States. In particular, we're going to talk to Derrick Machado, known to his friends as D. He and his wife founded DeeLorri Apparel, a luxury clothing brand that brings ultra quality to urban life. Now, that's not his thing, that's mine. So if you hear him using it later, let him, you know that it came from me. As serial entrepreneurs, his non-traditional business experience has provided him some insight that he's going to share with us today. He also was able to pivot very well during the pandemic and really scale his business during that. Not only are we going to talk to him about his clothing brand, but we're also going to have a conversation with him tomorrow about his business consulting. So, welcome and let's have some fun. Now, before we get too far into the show and really start talking about the uh, the supply chain and things like that, I want to say thank you to Donnie Glover and to the rest of the Black USA News family. They have been incredibly welcoming and just really supportive and really making sure that my producer, Kyle Crazy Horse Morgan, and I had all the resources that we need to be successful. I was recently with Donnie at a Black Wall Street memorial event, and it's really interesting that everybody has a Donnie story. Everybody has a story about the first time they met Donnie. And one of the things that people consistently say is that either you will love him or you will hate him, but you will always know that he kept it real with you. Now, like everybody else, I'm going to share my Donnie story. It was in the early 2000s when I first met Donnie Glover. He I was actively involved in politics. I was working with a couple of candidates, and I happened to be at a campaign event for then Governor Paris Glendening. And people were asking him questions and things like that. Being very respectful as we often do when powerful people come to the Black community. And then there was this guy who just walked up with a cell phone camera, put it right in the governor's face, and said, "Well, what are you doing for Black people in Baltimore City?" And I got to be honest, I was taken aback because I had been in politics for a while. I had been in the professional environment, and I knew I was trained. I'm sorry, I was trained to believe that that's not how you got change done. You don't insult or annoy people in power because they would never give you what you needed or help your community because you pissed them off. And so, I just kind of wrote them off. I'm going to be honest. And felt honestly a little Black people embarrassed. You know what I'm talking about, where you feel like that person is not representing the community well. And so the next time we were at another political event and he did it again. And I was like, oh, there he goes again. The third time, same thing. But the fourth time, they actually had a question for that. I mean, they had an answer for that question. He kept pushing them to answer what specifically are you going to do for Black people in Baltimore that will earn you their vote? And he kept asking the question so much that they ended up having to answer it. Now, the first three times that I saw somebody try to answer it, it was, especially the governor at the time, it was a miserable fail. but he kept pushing. And what I learned from him, and over time watching Donnie, is that a lot of times we get trained into form and fashion. We get told that this is how it should be done, but not realizing that the people who are oppressing our communities and the people who aren't doing right by us, those are the people we're trying to appease. So, in the interest and in the spirit of Donnie, we're going to keep the morning show doing exactly that. We're going to ask the hard hitting questions. Now, let me be honest, I may use a different set of vocabulary than Donnie does, or not. But the reality is that we're going to keep it real. We're going to keep pressing the questions. We're going to keep finding resources for our community because we can't wait for anybody to come and save us. We've tried that before. Didn't work then. Got to be honest. Don't see it working in the future. Well, all right. One of the things that you all will get to know about me is that I have a lot of opinions on a lot of things, and I am more than happy to share them. Um, One of the things that I do have an opinion on is the supply chain, and how that is impacting local businesses, particularly local Black businesses. A lot of times we hear about these things, the Suez Canal getting backed up for almost a week. We hear about the storms in Texas, and depending on where we live, we don't necessarily understand the implication that that has on us at a local level. We also tend not to think a lot of times about the impact that it has on small businesses. Uh, we're going to have an opportunity now and get ready to talk to Derrick Machado. As I told you, he and his wife started the brand DeeLorri Apparel. And they've been doing it since 2016. Now, that's not his first foray into business, but Derrick will tell us a lot more about his experience. And let's see, because, I've got to make sure I'm doing the technology right. There we go. I think, here we go. Derrick, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Will, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you too, sir. All right. That sounds wonderful. Wonderful. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you.
Welcome, greetings, and salutations to you. Now, I
Thank
told
you.
him, I don't know if you heard me. I told him a little bit about you, where you came from. I actually didn't get where you came from because we have a friend in common.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there are certain stories that, we might not want to delve too deeply into, but that's okay. We'll talk about that later. I got you for 2 shows. Who knows what's going to happen?
Exactly. Exactly. I'm here. I'm here, brother.
All right, cool. So, want to talk first a little bit of give the audience an opportunity to get to know you and your business, to talk about how it started. Now, first of all, I'm going to
Mhm.
spoil it, and I know because I know you love saying this, but when I heard you say it the first time, it hit me really deeply. The name of your business is DeeLorri,
Yeah.
um, DeeLorri Apparel, and when you told me that about that name, what you said was that is your nickname and your wife's nickname together
Yes.
because you all were two people coming together as one to build something better than you both separately. Am I capturing that right?
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
So
Yes.
tell us a little bit about. I mean, I know we don't have your wife on today, but tell us a little bit more about you and your wife and how you even got started in this.
Well, when we were young, we were always, into fashion. So,
Hmm.
back in my days, I know a few, and I know some of the listeners probably don't know this, but the Le Tigres and the Pumas and those back in the days when they first came out, we was a part of that culture.
Oh yeah.
Um, the beautiful thing about that back then was the colors allowed you to express yourself. You could walk down the block, two people wearing the same outfits with just different colors, and that kind of displayed, your expression and things of that nature. So we've always been into fashion. Through the years, I did music for 25 years as music producer, artist. Um, One thing that a lot of artists were doing at the time was to diversify their revenue streams. They were trying to start clothing lines, and I kept telling my crew, I'm not doing that because I've always been the type of person I want to know what's going on. So I wasn't the type of artist to just write rhymes and hope I got royalties. I wanted to know the revenue. I wanted to know the stream of the royalties, how the residuals look, the publishing. I wanted to know the business of it. So when I learned the business of fashion, I was like, the licensing. I was like, a lot of people don't really own their IPs, and I was like, I'm not really into that. So it's not that I'm a control freak. It's in my eyes, my crew. I don't worry about us eating. I worry about our kids eating. So to me, it's important to own the IP so we can make our money generational.
So
And
wait,
that's always been my attack toward business.
And I appreciate that. I will make sure that we all on the same page. When you're talking about people who don't own their IP, you're talking about intellectual property, right?
100%. Like in
Okay.
music, a lot of artists don't own the masters. Actually, a lot of artists don't really know this, but they don't even own their names. You know,
Absolutely.
like Jay-Z owns Jay-Z Inc. Madonna owns Madonna Inc. So a lot of artists, when they sign a recording contract, they don't know that they're actually signing over, you know, the IP to their name, which is actually
Mhm.
their business. So it's always been important to me that when I say me, it's always my wife and I, because we've always rolled. So
Right.
what's always been important to us is we want to own what we do, so we
Mhm.
can control if we want to let it go or we want to continue with it.
Okay. Okay.
And that's important because I know my nephews and nieces and my children watch what we do. So I've
Okay.
always been very particular about that. Even in, like, there were times where, you know, people be like, okay, can I invest in your company? We're not really looking for investors, because
Mm.
investors start to change the mission of the company. You
Okay.
know, it starts to turn into revenue, which is the meaning of a business.
Hmm.
But if you don't attach a certain mission statement or a certain purpose with that, what is the real purpose in my view? That's how I feel. So,
So, so, for-
um,
so for
mhm.
you, it's not all the way about. It's not all about the money. It's not all about like how much money you get. So, if that's not the thing that's driving you, what is driving you?
What was driving me is the purpose of people. I don't like to say people person, because some people start to think that you're just satisfying people's. No, what I mean is, like, someone's well being has always been important to me, whether I
Hmm.
know them or not. If I see somebody in the
Okay.
street and I see them distressed, I'm like, it eats at my core.
Okay.
So our brand is based on that. Our brand is based on people, meaning I just spoke to a young gentleman yesterday. We did a pop, and I was telling him, I was like, we design clothes so you can express yourself in the way that you choose. We don't design clothes telling you, no, this hat should be with this shirt and these sweats.
Hmm. Hmm.
We design the clothes so you can put them together how you want to tell your story. We just
Okay.
want to be a part of your story. We don't want to tell you what to tell the story, how to tell a story.
Okay.
So I know, when I speak to people, I tell them money's not really important, and they get turned back on that. They're like, I don't get. That's not the meaning of business. I'm like, no, I'd rather make a dollar and make sure somebody's good with it.
Okay.
Because,
So,
yeah,
no, I'm saying, so for you, there's this balance between getting the money that you need to live and be comfortable, and making sure that your business model or the way you do business has a positive impact to the people that you serve.
100%,
Okay.
hundred
Cool.
percent,
Cool. Cool. Cool.
hundred
Cool.
percent.
That's what's up, man. That is what's up.
Thank you, thank you.
So, let's look at it a different. Oh wow, did I take myself out the string? I don't know what just happened, man. I think I pressed the wrong button. There we go. All right, because again, so my producer, Crazy Horse, he's not here today, so I'm doing production and stuff. Oh, but I'm okay though. I'm okay. We're gonna have a couple of glitches, but it's gonna
As
keep on
all
rolling.
entrepreneurs do, many hats.
So, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about that. The mini hat pieces.
Yeah,
Right now things have. I mean, nobody who said what their 2021 was going to look like. I don't think anybody was right. When
yeah,
when you started in 20, the 5-year plan back in 2016. Yeah, none of the last 2 years were part of it.
yeah.
And it wasn't like the supply chain was doing all that great before COVID. So the question to me and for our audience is, how has the pandemic and the supply chain challenges, how have they impacted your business?
Um, the pivot that we took during the
Mhm.
pandemic was very interesting,
Okay.
especially to everybody on the outside.
Mhm.
We did the complete opposite. I like history. Whatever I get into, I like to study the history of it, music,
Okay.
fashion, all of that, any business in general. I've learned that in depressions, like financial depressions or things of that nature,
Mhm.
the businesses that can actually withstand that and get through that, they they flourish. And so that was
Okay.
kind of a confidence builder for me, because when the pandemic hit, you know, the sales that we had, it's not like they went from like, just say from 10 to 2, it went to 0. And I sat there literally, and I was speaking to, my wife and I having a conversation. I was like, should we keep on? What should we do? How should we do it? And so what we do in situations like that is we actually break everything down. She's like, look, if we close everything down, what happens? If we double down, what happens? If we stay doing what we're doing, what happens? Let's run through these scenarios. What we chose to do at the time was double down. So I went through, I'm I guess you could say I'm emotional when it comes to business. If I do something and I don't see it moving, I kind of get emotional. Like, you know what, this isn't working. Let's do it. So my wife, she has a funny way to counter that. What she does is she'll be like, look, Vent, go ahead, let it out. Quit. We're done. Let's close them down. We're done. I get it. And then I wake up but she always tell me, let's sleep on it though. Say what you're going to say, but let's sleep on it. And then I wake up in the morning, like I got like 15 ideas and I'm sketching them out. And she's like, okay. And I've learned that, you know what, when you feel a certain way, you need to acknowledge that. So some people might say like, you know what, get over this or no, acknowledge the feeling. So she taught me that. She acknowledged the feeling. You want to quit. Cool. Run it through your mind. Quit. Let it go.
Yes.
Now, how do you feel now that you quit? And then, so I sit there and be like, I get it. So what we did in the pandemic was we went from, at the time, I think we had 6 items on the website. And my wife actually, she had COVID at the time. And so I was like in the room, I brought all my equipment out, making sure she's good, in between taking care of her, I was and I just got into this zone and I was designing. And in a week, we went from 5 or 6 pieces to 48 pieces on the website.
Wow.
Now, what I did was, in the process of designing, I was also thinking about how things were going to get shipped, because it was kind of like I shipped. In the pandemic, we were doing masks, and I wasn't charging people. I was making them at home, and I was like, you know what, I want to send people masks. So I actually sent masks to 2 people in Tampa. I sent them out at the same time. One got there 2 days later. One got there 4 weeks later.
Wow.
Yes, and I sent them, like I literally took them. I sent them at the same exact time. And so I was like, you know what, this is crazy. What am I going to do? So we actually doubled down and bought the equipment. And I was making the stuff at home. So I'm sitting at home saying, you know what? I'll press it. I'll embroider it. I'll do all of that. Because I got to show them that we will overcome this situation.
Gotcha.
We will flourish in this situation. And again, it goes toward the purpose of the business, where me doing that doesn't only show them that, you know what, when hard times, they're ready to double down, they're ready to work or whatever. But it also shows people that an individual can sit there and be like, this is hard, but I got to overcome this. I can't sit here and I can't, you can't. As a human being and as a business owner, you just can't. And that was a blessing to us.
I'm going to give you a pushback on that one. Because I think it really is important for us to honor good work that gets done. Now, you say you can't do that. As a human being, you have to push forward, but the reality is that you don't. I think it's important to honor and recognize that your pushing forward is a choice, and it is a choice that a lot of people don't make. And it's okay, whether you are an employee or an employer, whether you sign your checks whether you sign the checks on the front, on the back, or the front and the back.
Yes.
Either way, that's fine, but it has to be for you. And it's really great to hear how you all took kind of a non-traditional journey into getting there. And by the way, as a business consultant, I love the structure that you all use, the back and forth. And I think, and again, that's one of the reasons that when you said that it was the 2 of you coming together, why it was so profound to me, because that balance that you're talking about, you need both sides. You need the side where, hey, let's do the idea, let's go and get it. And you need somebody to go, wait a minute, let's think this through. What are the practical implications long term? And even the understanding the need to say, hey, even recognizing that you sent 2 things to the same location and it took them 2 vastly different times, even integrating that into your business model is a wonderful pivot, and really goes back into that whole focus on customers that you were talking about. So, shout out to you.
Thank you, brother. I want to build off of when you said it's a choice, because that's
Mhm.
beautiful. So many people don't understand that. So they think
Mhm.
if so and so started a business and they're studying this person or this industry or this business, I have to
Mhm.
do what they do. No, it's important for you to take the notes down and
Mhm.
then see what works for you and make the choice. Like I tell a lot of people, like, listen, you can't do the cliche work 24 hours a day. I
Right.
choose to say, you know what, my downtime is my downtime because I need my mental health. I
Right.
need my physical health. Like, I
Right.
love what I do, and I have no problem working 24/7 because it's a passion and a
Mhm.
joy. But I can't work 24/7 because I'm going to shut down.
Right.
I'm going to
Right.
alienate certain people. I'm going to like, and so the important word you said, you choose. It's very important for an individual to sit there and be like, I need to understand my choices and what I choose to do.
Right.
When you said that, that actually hit. That's so important, that don't just follow what people doing. Understand what they're doing and why they're doing it, and see if it fits what you're
Right.
doing.
Right. That, yeah, it's incredible. So okay. So pandemic hits.
Yeah.
You say, like, to hell with this. I think it's time for me to go ahead, go get a 9 to 5. Your wife say, okay, then run it. And you take a nap. And you wake up, you're like, nah, I'm not doing this. And so not only do you not go and get a job, you say we got 6 things on it. Let's just go ahead and do 8 times or more than that. 800% increase in the number of things on the website, the number of products that we offer with all the design and everything like that. That sounds like a huge risk, especially when you went from a little bit of sales to nothing, and it didn't, and nobody knows what the future is going to hold. So what really got you to increase the number of products that you had? Like, why did you think that would work?
Two things.
Mhm.
One, I believe when a customer perceives that you're investing in yourself, they're more reluctant to invest in you.
Okay.
Because they're seeing, you know what, I'm investing in your brand, and you're not. I can see that you're not using it on nonsense. You didn't cop another
Mhm.
Lamborghini or Ferrari, or I can
Mhm.
see.
Mhm.
Oh, you know what? Every time I buy something, they double on products. So my philosophy on that, and the other thing too is, I thought it was harder for a customer to make a purchase if they saw one T-shirt. I thought it was more interesting if a customer saw a T-shirt with a hat matching and a pair of shorts. Or if they
Ah,
had choices, like, you know what, there's 3 T-shirts, there's 3 hats, and 3 shorts. I can choose. And when I started doing that, I started seeing I want people to express themselves, but now I'm giving them more product to actually do that.
okay,
So
okay.
yeah, so that was the philosophy behind it. Was, you know what, maybe the sales aren't coming in like we want because we're forcing something on them, opposed to giving them the options to set themselves up, for whatever outfit, whatever event they're going to. So that was kind of the philosophy. And in doing
Mhm.
so, especially when the pandemic hit and everything dropped, you have to understand, okay, how we're going to manufacture. Like, am I going to go out and buy 144 T-shirts and hope somebody buys them and buy 8 sets of that? Or I'm going to control the manufacturing from the inside.
All
And
right.
so, yeah.
Okay. So and actually that jumps me to the next point. I'm really grateful that you're making this so easy on me. It's like all my questions, you're like, no, I'm just gonna answer that before you ask. It's fine, okay. So you talked about bringing the manufacturing in-house.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a huge commitment, especially given the level of luxury that your brand is at. The quality of the material that you use.
Yes.
Um, how was that transition into relying on an external manufacturer and then collapsing that, trying to make sure we use the business, what is the proper business terms when, collapse this, integrate the supply chain and take over the manufacturing yourself. So instead of having an external manufacturer,
Mhm.
you take over that responsibility. That sounds like a real significant investment in time, resources, money. How did you make that happen?
Well, that's actually how I've always operated in business, even in music, because the way my mind works is
Mhm.
if I can completely understand how the process goes, I can better communicate the process when need be. So
Okay.
I figured, okay, I was having conversations with embroiderers and I could see my designs weren't coming out the way I wanted them. And I could
Mhm.
see really that was in the communication. And it wasn't in the fault of
Mm.
the manufacturer. It was in fault, it
Mhm.
was actually my fault. Accountability is
Okay.
huge when you're doing business. I think a lot of people need to understand that. Be accountable for your mistakes. So
Mm.
what I
We're
did
gonna put a
was
pin
I
in
was
that
like,
and come back to that later. We're gonna put a pin in that. I'm
we're
gonna write
gonna
that actually
we're gonna
down
put a
right
pin
now.
in that.
Yeah, we're gonna come to that. So
So
okay, so you understood that the
mhm.
issue was yours.
Yeah, the issue was mine because it was the communication. I could tell
Mhm.
somebody I want a hat to look like this. And they would send me a sample. And I'm like, ah, that's not what I said. And they were like, that's what you said. So then I would be like, okay, what is it that I said and how did you take it?
Mhm.
So I
Mhm.
can better understand how to communicate with you. So what I wound up doing is everything I have no problem doing research. I have no problem
Mhm.
shutting myself off to the world for 3 or 4 months, doing my research, taking my notes and getting to better understand. So I say, listen, I'm gonna get the embroidery machine. I'm gonna get the heat press. I'm gonna get the machines that I need to do what I got to do. I'm gonna go out
Mhm.
and I'm gonna start touching the fabric. I'm gonna start feeling, smelling the fabric. I'm gonna start seeing
Mhm.
what it does. I'm gonna start
Mhm.
talking to people. Okay, what are you allergic to? What type of fabrics are you allergic to? And so I
Mhm.
started having those conversations with different people, going out touching fabrics. Actually during the pandemic, I was ordering fabrics. Um, and then I zoned out. Nobody had communication with me except for family. And I was like on this embroidery machine for like 3 months. I got that. Heat press, understanding, cutting, got that. Okay, now everybody's doing this. I don't want to do this because we're a different type of brand. How do I improve the quality of the embroidery, of the vinyl, of the
Mhm.
this and that? So I started looking at all of this. I started looking at brands that now I don't know the individuals who own them, but they're kind of like my secret mentors. Like I watch and study these dudes inside and out. And now I can go to an embroiderer and be like, listen, I need 1,000 pieces. This is what the tech pack looks like, which tells them the exact sizing of each stitch, of each sleeve, of the fabric. So that's what tech packs do. It tells them I can give somebody a tech pack now, and I don't have to say anything. Everything is on
Mm.
there. And so, to how I want the stitches, the direction of the stitches, how many stitches, how I want the cuffs double stitched a certain way. So
Okay.
I learned all of that. And what it did was it allowed me it benefited us financially because instead of going out, when you do a sample on a shirt,
Mhm.
it's not a $50 shirt when you're sampling. That shirt may be $300 for one shirt for sample.
Mm. Mhm.
So it might come back wrong and you got to do it again. I wanted it like this. So now instead of doing that, I'm like, listen, I can just get these fabrics, sew them up, and then be like, no, this ain't it. This ain't it. Now I'm spending, a fraction of that until I get it
Mm.
right.
Mhm.
Now I have the
Mhm.
system,
Mhm.
So now
So it's about
when I
design.
speak to a huge manufacturer, it's a more coherent conversation,
Okay.
which will relate to less mistakes.
Okay. One of the we have a question actually from Takia Ross. Hey Takia, how you doing? I'm sorry,
Hey,
waving at the
Takeo.
screen. Sorry. She says it's amazing that you were able to take that time. How did you maintain your business revenue and customer base during the time that you were doing your research?
Social media is a beautiful thing if you know how to use it, you understand it, and you don't let it take advantage of you.
Okay.
Please, I might express this a few times through this conversation. Mental health, man, mental health. So understand social media is a tool. Keep it there. It's a tool. You
Okay.
you, you don't need to walk around with your hammer all day. you know. So what I did to keep that communication with them was, as we were talking about hats before, not only my wife and I are the creative directors. We actually, we manufacture it also, but we're the
Mhm.
photographers. with we handle everything. Like sometimes I'm the model, you know.
Mm.
We
I
come
saw
up with
that
the
too. I wanted to say you was cool. I saw a couple of pictures of you on the site. So yeah.
thank you, brother. So we do all of that. So in doing so, it allows me and my wife to understand when we come up with the concept of the
Mhm.
campaign,
Mhm.
we can see it through. And what I mean by that is
What do
we
you
can
mean by
see it through.
campaign?
I'm
We want to
sorry.
make sure everybody's on the same pump, and we want to make sure everybody's on the same page. So when you say campaign, what do you mean?
So for instance, right now, what we're working on is the Love Is campaign. I have my brother and his wife, and they're the model. So the campaign is Love Is, meaning when we designed these pieces, this is the concept we had in mind. Two people
Mm,
expressing their love. And the campaign consists of us designing the fabrics, creating the fabrics, um, seeing them through production, seeing them through the photography, the video, the edits, how what you see at the end is related is the campaign. That's the marketing campaign. This is
okay.
what
So you're
this
talking
how
about
this is.
full-fledged marketing campaign.
Yes, yes. So that's the
Okay.
campaign. So in having the luxury of going the entire process, we could then better tell the story. And so
Mhm.
social media was huge with that. So as we were doing that, what we did was we took a little time, took about 3 or 4 weeks, and we created like 3 campaigns.
Okay.
Just photo shooting, whether it was with models, and at the time during the pandemic, we couldn't have models. So I was literally in the streets putting the stuff on chairs and hangers outside though, so people could see something.
Okay. Right.
And so we set those 3 campaigns up, and then strategically was like, okay, we're gonna drop this, and we're gonna hold that for 3 weeks, and then we're gonna drop this one for another 3 weeks. So we set up a bunch of campaigns and marketed them slowly, strategically marketed them out. So
Mm. So
yeah,
timing is a
and
big deal. Timing is a really big deal about how you do all these marketing campaigns and stuff.
yes, we so because like in the fashion world, there's two seasons. There's fall, winter, and there's spring, summer. Now,
Mhm.
being who we are, the fact that we don't fall into trends, we don't follow
Mhm.
those. We drop what we drop when we drop it because we feel if this design is going to work right now, why hold it 9, 12 months? You know, I
Got
think people want this now. Now that was a conscious choice on our part, because
Mhm.
we could just fall into the lines and be like, "This is what we're gonna do," but to be honest, that's not what DeeLorri's ever done.
Okay. It
Yeah,
really is about you all following your own drummer.
100%, hundred
Got
percent,
it.
and
Got it.
that's really key because in order for us to make that decision, again, choosing, um, we understood the rules.
Mhm.
Since we understood the rules, we knew what we could and couldn't do and if it'll work or not. So like when we tried this, we said, if anything, we could just fall back in line and just go on.
Uh, mhm.
But everybody loved it, because
Mhm.
even though we're on the East Coast and it's wintertime, some people feel like I can't drop a T right now because it's wintertime. Well, there's Miami and there's California and it's not 30 degrees out there.
Okay.
So we got customers out there too. So why not drop a T with this hoodie? So yeah.
So you really do understand your customer base well. It sounds like you have. How did you learn about them? Because I've worked with small business owners for the last 20 years or so, and one of the challenges that a lot of them have, I call it the make pretend, where they have
Yeah.
these stories in their head about how people are going to, oh, once I drop this, to do this, that, and that, or oh, they would never do this because of this, that, and the third. They make up these stories. But it
Yeah.
sounds like you know your target customer. You know who they are. How did you get to know them?
Two things. I have a number. My number is 250,000. And what that means is I believe whatever I do, there's 250,000 people who like what I do. So
Okay.
I try to zone in on that. I know some
Okay.
people are like, oh, I'm going to make this hat and I know 7 billion people are going to buy it.
Yeah, no.
That's not going to happen. So I stick to that, that number.
Mhm.
The other thing is my wife and I really design the secret to what we're designing is us. So we literally sit there, and what we design is like, if I'm designing a lady's hoodie dress, I'm thinking about how that's going to look on my wife. You know, should
So
I make
you
it
all are
longer?
your target market.
Yes.
You all
Yeah.
are the target. So you know what people like you want. Basically, you created a business to get you all get the clothes that you all wanted to wear and realize that other people are like that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And
Business.
yeah, and it works because like streetwear, we consider our brand lifestyle apparel, not streetwear, because we're not into boxes, as I said before.
Okay,
And the
right.
reason why we said also lifestyles, because it's not just hats, t-shirts, hoodies. Like, we got blankets, we got duffel bags, and we want to venture into. We have printed canvases for some of our designs that people could put up on their walls. And so we were like, a lot of entrepreneurs will be like, oh, so I'm into hip hop and this is hip hop. I'm going to make what I'm making according to the box of hip hop. When the truth of the matter is, I don't just listen to hip hop. I listen to soul music. I listen to salsa music. I listen to rock music. So I'm like, I know I could sit in a room with a hip hop artist wearing a flannel, and a motorcycle club member rocking the flannel, and they're both rocking in two different ways, which
Right.
is exactly what we're building off and what we're trying to do. So that's like, instead of sitting there and saying, you know what, we make our clothes for everybody, we're making it, like you said, for us. But we understand, like, there's different. We have different emotions in a day. We have different vibes in a day, and we realize that those vibes may represent another person. So we start. I guess you could say we start inside out. That's how we created our demographic.
Okay. 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 That's actually a really good way to do it, especially when you understand who your target market is. Let me go
Yes.
ahead and fix this. I wanted to show people a little bit what was out there, why I looked and things like that. You gotta, make it
Thank you.
get the people's appetite, show them what's actually out there. I was, yeah.
They can hear it now. They see
Um,
it.
I gotta kind of go back and anchor in because one of the challenges that I hear a lot from small business owners is this idea of all of the hats that you have to wear.
Yeah.
And then what a lot of them realize is that in an effort to have all of the hats and an effort to be all of the things to your clients, to your family, to your significant other, to yourself, um, there's only 168 hours in a week, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's it.
Yep.
And it sounds like the you and your wife working together. Do you have any other staff that supports you all, or is it just the two of you?
On the company, just the two of us. We do have family members who they're accessible when we need.
Gotcha.
They're always like, whatever you need, just let me know.
Hmm.
Which is it's a huge blessing, man. Like, yes, it takes a village to raise a child, but it
Hmm.
takes an entire community to grow a business. And
Absolutely.
and it's very important to know that you have to wear hats, but it's also important to know that there's certain hats you don't have to wear.
Oh, well, okay.
Like,
You about to preach a little bit. Go ahead and speak on it, brother. Go ahead.
yes, if you're not good with numbers, please get an accountant. The IRS does not play.
Mm.
They do not play.
Yeah.
And and honestly, that's not something you want to play with. You mess up on your taxes one time and not realize it, and then years come, and then you fall behind. It's gonna hurt your business.
Oh, absolutely.
Never mind, it's gonna hurt your mental and emotional state as well. Um, so if you start on a clothing brand, let's stay there in
Mm-hmm.
conversation's sake. If you start on a clothing brand and you don't know how to design,
Mm-hmm.
that's not a problem. As long as you have the mission, you can get a designer.
Mm-hmm.
Just make sure what you're telling them to design stays within the grasp of your mission statement. Very, very
Okay.
important to do that.
Stay in focus.
100%, 100%, because you don't want to lose your customer. If your customer sees you constantly putting, designs that fall within your mission statement, and then you put something on the outside. Like, one time I designed something, and my wife looked at it and she's like, "This is crazy," but that's not DeeLorri.
Mm.
And I was like, Okay, no, well, we wound up selling the design instead of wasting it. But the fact that I was so into what I was doing, and the fact that it came out the way I saw it in my head, I was excited. But I lost in the design process. I lost the track of the mission. But
And I think that
Mhm.
goes really back to this whole thing about the balance between the two of you and how you engage in it. Because
Yes,
one of the challenges for a lot of the businesses that I work with that are solo entrepreneurs is that there's no one to say stop. There's
yes,
that you have a wonderful idea and it's a fire design and you know the design is fire, so you run with it. As opposed to having somebody to get you to click off that creative part of your brain and then turn on the entrepreneur part and say, but does this fit within the brand?
yes,
Because to your point, one of the things it sounds like is that you have taken a very strong stance on a defined brand. This
yes,
is who we are. This is our identity, and this is who we are going to be. And we're not going to do things that fall outside of that.
yes,
And that relationship with your customers, that ability to count on you and to know that they are going to get consistency.
yes.
I think that sounds like that's one of the big drivers. One of the things you said before, and I want to kind of touch back on this because I love highlighting when people do good shit. You are
Thank you.
doing good shit, and one of the things that you're doing, and it is something that I have not heard a lot of people do, and I got excited. One of the few times during the pandemic I got excited is when I started realizing that this was going to be a cluster, like things were going to get horribly, horribly wrong, and then I
Mhm.
started following economists who started talking about this drop off in the world economy, not just the United States. So what I did is I went back, the same kind of like what you were talking about, is I started looking at the businesses that survived the last recessions and the last economic downturns. Who were they? Because at the end of every downturn, there's somebody who does a hot wash after the fact and says like, well, who survived? How did you survive during that? So I was like, well, wait a minute. If we're coming to an economic disruption, and these people survived the last economic disruption,
Yeah,
I can learn from them. I can do the research about what did they do? How did they pivot? And one of the things that I found, to your point, was doubling down actually works because a lot of the businesses are going to go out of business. They
yeah,
are not going to have the wherewithal to manage through the pandemic, through the logistic challenges. And what you have the opportunity to do is to take advantage of that because their
yeah,
customers are still going to have needs.
yes,
Your customer's still going to want a T-shirt.
yeah,
No matter who goes out of business, I'm still going to want a T-shirt eventually. And
yeah,
if I see that as all of my other brands are going down, yours is on the way up, that emotional connection, that mental connection I make with what I've been taught success is, I'm
yeah,
going to rock with you.
yeah, yeah.
That's
And
pretty cool.
and right on there, if you put out a design that's against your mission and they attach to your story, and if you go against that, now you lose their trust in your story.
Right, right.
So now they're like, are you just trying to get $1 now, or we were going somewhere and you went off track. And
Yes, yes.
yes, and it's so awesome that I could sit there and then show this to my wife and she could be like, crazy, but that's not us. Okay, cool. Let's put that aside. I just
hmm
because I'm gonna tell creatives, you have to do this. You have to, if you're a writer, you have to write yourself out of a block. Just
hmm
stopping doesn't help your block.
Right,
Seeing different things helps. So sometimes I create a design and it may be a horrible design. But if I don't do anything, the great design behind that horrible design will never happen.
right,
So when you're create. Creators, like they tell basketball players, shoot or shoot. When the shoot
right,
is off, the way you get back on is you keep shooting.
right, right.
So
It is
you
the
can say
practice.
say it again.
It's the practice.
100%.
And so that's one of the other parts that I think is really interesting is that a lot of people when they look at sports or things like that, or they look at actors and actresses and singers, they understand the value of practice, but they don't apply the same thing to entrepreneurship. a lot of what you've been talking about, like that 3-month hiatus, that was research and practice. That was, if you're a basketball player, that's your summer camp. That is the summer camp you go to, the conditioning training and all of that. But a lot of times entrepreneurs, there's this myth that, well, if it's my business, I should just know.
Yeah. No,
and
you don't know.
Why should you know? Who the hell are you? You have never done this before. You are literally making this crap up as you go along. But somehow, and not only do we convince ourselves of that, we start convincing other people. Oh, I know what I'm doing. And there's this balance between the sales part, because nobody wants you to sell them something like, well, I'm a okay, like for me, writing business plans. If I came to you and was like, well, I'm good. I'm good enough to write a business plan. I do pretty well. That's not going to get you to drop $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 or however much, or go through a class or whatever. You want to, oh my gosh, I get people millions of dollars. But unfortunately, what you find is a lot of time you have great showmen with poor substance.
Yes.
And it sounds like you all have taken the brand approach to make sure that you have the substance that's necessary to keep your customers engaged, not just the shiny to get them to click on your website or to make that first order. You're looking for a relationship so that they can have the level of trust and engagement with you and with your business. And again, I also like it because one of the things I think we don't do enough is to shout out people who doing good shit. And again, you're doing good shit. Like you, in addition to the brand management and maintenance, it is also understanding those things about IP. One of the greatest stories for me about not securing your IP is the Temptations. How there were 2 sets of Temptations back in the day because nobody secured the intellectual property on the name. So I was part of the original group, so I could use it too.
Yeah. Like another one is Biggie Smalls.
Oh, tell me about it.
His original name was Biggie Smalls.
Oh yeah. Because the contract, the brand, the other person had that name already.
Yeah, that's why he became the Notorious B.I.G.
Yeah,
and it's very important. Like, listen, if you want to start a business, but do your homework. I tell everybody, there's 2 things in life that you have to do regardless. You have to learn, you have to work. Yep. Period. Whether you go to college or not, you're still gonna have to learn.
Yep.
Whatever way is best for you to learn, understand that you still have to do that. You got people that's like, no, I only learn through books. That's fine, but dig into the books.
Yes.
Now, if you learn through experience, that's fine, but learn, get in, experience it. And do not think that just because you know it all, it doesn't mean it's going to happen. You have to put the actions behind the learning. You have to put your actions behind your words. Don't just say you're going to do something. Go do it.
All right. So you know what? You see, I knew you were going to do this. You talking about tomorrow's show. Why you already on tomorrow's show when we talk about today's show? Today's show, okay?
Okay, let's see here.
This is the problem you have when you have talented people that come to your show. They start doing all their other talents. I only asked you about the one talent today. Only the one talent today. Tomorrow, you got a whole show tomorrow to talk about your good business advice. I'm trying to.
We're gonna put a pin in that too.
I'm trying to show and floss for the audience, letting them know that I know what I'm talking about business. You come in and be like, oh no, that's true, but no, we tomorrow, buddy, tomorrow.
Okay, tomorrow. We're gonna keep that right there. We're gonna keep that right there.
But so it is important, I think, for us to make sure that people understand that just because things look bad for everybody, you are a great example of pivoting. You're a great example about, you got to take a risk. Now, there are people who tried to pivot in the same way you did and they washed out. That is the other part about business. Some of the stuff that happens to you has nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
You could do everything.
And that, what I tell people, that may not be it. And they're like, what do you mean? This is my passion. Absolutely. Like my record company was my passion. Mm-hmm. My rhymes were my passion. My beats were my passion. What did it do? It taught me the intricacies of me running this clothing brand.
Right.
When I was a part of a digital billboard company, and that was my passion. speaking about how, the tech that we wanted to put. That was my passion, but that wasn't it. That taught me something else about this clothing brand.
Right.
So
So you've
sometimes I
been able
tell
to
people
build.
like this. How? Excuse me.
So as a serial entrepreneur, you've been able to build on each of your experiences to bring them into what you do now.
100,000. It's funny because I quit this clothing brand 9 times. Like we were talking before. Like I quit 9 times. I was done. And one time my wife and I were having a conversation in the car, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my wife, I tell her she should be a therapist because she's great at listening,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
but she's taking mental notes.
Okay.
So she sat with me, and I'm like, look, man, like I've never done this, you know, this, I'm giving all these excuses, not
Mm-hmm,
reasons,
mm-hmm,
excuses to quit. She
mm-hmm,
told me, she was like, who taught you how to do music? I was like,
mm-hmm.
nobody. She's like, who taught you how to run a record company? I was like, nobody. She goes, who taught you how to read contracts? I was like, nobody. Then she went on through every business. I mean, literally, she sat there like, who managed the international cyclist? I was like, me. Who taught you that? Nobody. Who managed this NASCAR driver? Nobody. Me. She's like, yeah. And all of that brought you here.
Right.
And she was like, who was out there trying to get the sponsorships for the NASCAR driver? She goes, and now you're just trying to find manufacturers for your clothing brand. So everything that you do in life, you need to realize when you're at where you're at right now, did all of this lead me here? And if so, what am I forgetting that is the reason why I'm here?
You know what? This is why I hate you a little bit. Gotta be honest. This is why I hate you a little bit because tomorrow's show is now changed. Thank you. I hope you're proud of yourself. Anything you had planned for tomorrow, you're gonna have to change it because tomorrow's show is not only about kind of business and how do you navigate, but let's spend some time in anchoring into that mental health portion, how your
Yes.
support systems work. You cool with that? Because you got like 23 hours to talk about. It seemed like you've been thinking about it for a while, but you got 23 hours to prepare. Okay, we're gonna talk. We switching it up. This is the morning
No,
show, bro.
I'm good.
We keep it real and we make the pivots because what you're
Yeah.
talking about is a really big deal. I know that at times in my life, I've had challenges with mental health to the point where, there were people that I love, people who my family, like in just who meant the world to me that I couldn't even call on the phone
Mm-hmm.
because the panic, the anxiety, and all
Yeah.
of that would just take over. And as I'm dying, and it was especially at first, it was weird because I could call other people, but
Yeah.
somehow when it came to these people, and that what I found also happens to people in business, they
Yeah.
are able to do all of the business stuff except maybe the books. So what
Yes.
they do is that they shut down on those. And then they just act like they're going to go away, that it's going to happen, or, I'll get to it later. And what it is that you got to be honest about your mental health. You got to be honest that you're afraid. You got to be honest that, hey, guess what? Because this is one of the things that and you keep. I'm doing it. This is tomorrow show, damn it, tomorrow show. Okay, all right.
So
Tomorrow.
you're gonna have to watch this again and take those
Yeah,
notes
right.
for
I'm
tomorrow.
gonna take notes. I'm sorry. Like, you know what? I might have to just do a show in between this one and tomorrow, like for myself to get it all out. Because I realized that as I'm talking, I got a lot of stuff I'm working through still. But to that point, and especially even as we're talking about the logistics and the supply chain and these issues, especially for Black businesses,
Yeah.
there's so much of this imposter syndrome and these circumstances where people who are not you, people who
Mhm.
have no idea what the hell you are doing, are trying to explain to you
Yeah.
how to do something they've never done before. Oh,
Yeah.
hey, you know what you should do? You should do this design. Well, tell me, how many designs have you sold? Well, none. I just think it'd be cool. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what you should put in your menu? You should put, well, and by the way, whoever's out there, you should put on the menu, because IHOP had me going there for what do you call that? The What is that thing at the fair, the state fair? Funnel cake French toast. Oh my God.
Ooh.
I hope that's one of the things I'm looking for around this Christmas, hoping that IHOP brings back funnel cake not French toast, funnel cake pancakes. Oh, you know what? I didn't eat this morning. I'm sitting here like, why am I now excited about pancakes? I didn't eat. I'm gonna have to do better in the
Yeah.
morning.
I'm about to go make some in a few.
Oh, we're getting closer to time to wrap up, and what I want to do just before we get on out of here, we're gonna give you an opportunity to think through what are kind of your last words, things you want to leave for people. Well, before they see you tomorrow, but Like things you want to leave to them about supply chain, about your business, making sure they know how to contact you. All right, don't
Okay.
forget that part. Okay. I put your link in the chat. Now,
Awesome.
one of the things that we want to do is to make sure that you all know that the only show I'm not the only show on BlackUSA.News. Tonight at 7 p.m. Share Space with Dave, Quita, and Dason, and tomorrow night at 7 p.m. the Donnie Glover Show. We're going to talk about it. We got Sister Biz, Black Business Roundtable, and Black Crypto News later on in the week. But I just want to make sure you know tonight, 7 p.m. Come on back, lock in so that you can check out Shared Space. And tomorrow night at 7 p.m., don't forget to come through so you can see the Donnie Glover Show. And as always moving forward, tomorrow at 10 a.m., I'll be here for the morning show, and D will be back with me, and we're going to talk about mental health. Well, we were going to talk about business and how to develop effective business, but now tomorrow we talk about mental health. Hey, I might even see if I could find me a mental health guest who knows something about mental health, not just for me being on the other side of mental health treatment, because I know about treatment. I know this is who you call.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to get somebody on the other side. It's like, hey, especially for entrepreneurs, because this is hard.
It's 100%. Listen, man, it's
lonely too.
It is, and there's so many factors of being an entrepreneur outside of just the business that people need to understand. Like, I don't like doing anything on my own. Meaning, I'm known for bringing everybody with me, and I've had to learn. Sometimes you need to let go to get yourself in a position so you can. Like, if I make $1 and I spread that dollar out for 10 people, it's even harder for all of us to make $1. So why not make the whole dollar and then bring somebody in?
Right.
So and you have to like I'm gonna tell you like this. I love designing. I love what I do. It's only 15% of my business though.
Okay.
So what I love to do is only 15% of my business. So I have to love the other 85%. Because if I don't, then why am I doing this? People be like, "Oh, I'm doing this just to make some money." Okay, if you're gonna make some money, why not enjoy making the money? Like, enjoy the entire process, and you actually respect and hold on to the money even longer.
Okay. All right, yeah. We need to get real prepared for tomorrow's show. I'm gonna have to go back and all my show notes for tomorrow about just being the trash. Horse is gonna be mad at you because that's the show notes are pretty much trash now because we're doing something totally different. It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, I know I'm gonna get a phone call tonight. Yo, you changed my whole show up. You changed the whole show up. Yo, D, what are you doing?
We had a plan, damn it. We had a plan.
I'll be like, look, Horse, I'm gonna just send you another beat. He'd be like, okay.
Oh, you know what? I want you also to think about this. You want to tomorrow as we get ready to leave, might ask you to drop a bar or two on the way out. On the way out, see what you still got, bro.
Okay. Now that means I got 23 hours to ride around.
All right, sir. Thank you so much for being here. We really do appreciate it, man. And I'm looking forward to us tomorrow talking about mental health and business ownership.
Thank you for having me. Well, I'm grateful, man. Thank you.
No problem, man. And thank you. And again, shout out to my main man, Ace Boone Coon, Donnie Glover, and the whole BlackUSA.News team. Please make sure you all go and check out DeeLorriapparel.com. And D, what is the one piece of advice you want to leave them with as we end this off?
No is the most important word when you're running business. That tells others that you know your value and you know your worth. Can I get a discount? We don't do discounts.
Amen. Okay. Good. Power to the people, bro. All right, ladies and gentlemen in internet land, this has been William Honablu and Derrick Machado for the BlackUSA.News Morning Show. You all have a great day, and we will see you tomorrow.
Peace and blessings.